So good afternoon, everyone. My name's Mark Walsh, and I am the Director of Formation and Mission for the Sisters of Our Lady of Sion here in Australia. And it's my great pleasure to welcome you here today to the very first of our online seminars. We're in the midst of National Reconciliation Week here in Australia, and the theme of National Reconciliation Week is All In. It's everybody's responsibility to work for reconciliation, and we honour and respect Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the continuing owners and custodians of country and acknowledge that their sovereignty was never ceded. We commit ourselves to walk softly and gently on country and through deep listening, dialogue and action to work actively with First Nations people for justice, equity, reconciliation and healing. It's my pleasure to introduce Lisa Hughes, who is going to facilitate tonight's online seminar. Lisa is a healthcare professional with qualifications in nursing, midwifery, health promotion and counselling. She has been working in the Catholic education sector for the last 30 years. Her roles at Catholic Education Melbourne and Melbourne Archdiocese schools over the past 10 years have involved working with senior leaders in Catholic identity, faith formation and religious leadership across the Diocese of Australia. Her areas of expertise and focus include meditation, identity, gender and sexuality. Lisa has a very strong connection with the Sisters of Our Lady of Sion, lasting many decades. She's a former student, staff member, board member, parent, and member of the Company of Our Lady of Sion College Box Hill. And we're really pleased to have employed Lisa on a part-time basis to work with us on an exciting project for next year, which will be a pilgrimage in the footsteps of the first sisters in Australia in Sale. But I won't take any more of your time and I'll hand over to Lisa, who will lead you through the next hour.
Thanks very much, Mark, and hello to everybody, and thanks for joining me this afternoon for this time where we'll be together to explore the practice of meditation. I'm presenting today for anyone who's interested in learning more about meditation, so they might be able to incorporate it into their personal and professional life. I've been meditating for nearly 40 years. And you can tell from that CV, like I am pretty old. So I first sought out the practice as a way of dealing with stress. And I used it as a therapeutic measure, meditation instead of medication. And I learned a form of relaxation meditation, which was popular at the time, made popular by Dr. Ainsley Mears. I practiced this way as needed to effect for over a decade. Then I started reading about and becoming interested in mindfulness meditation. In 2010, I was fortunate enough to secure a job at Monash University working with Dr. Craig Hassett, who was pioneering mindfulness meditation in Australia at the time. I was trained in that form of meditation by Craig and taught the discipline to med students and staff at Monash for many years. During this time, I was studying Ignatian spirituality, and I was starting to notice that there were strong similarities with mindfulness meditation and the prayers Anthony de Mello taught through his sadhana exercises. Tuning in, listening deeply, being aware of mind-body connection, and a person's connection to creation, all of creation. Also moving out of your thoughts and into your senses, living intentionally, mindfully. Not long after this, I also began working in a Catholic primary school who was known for being a Christian meditation school. And the principal asked me to review the meditation program. It was here I was introduced to the world community of Christian meditation, initiated by John Main in the 1970s, and formalised and carried on by Lawrence Freeman. I became a member of the WCCM and through their quality resources and professional learning opportunities, I began situating the practice of meditation within the Christian contemplative tradition, the practice of meditation within the Christian contemplative tradition. All of the photos that I use in my presentation tonight have been taken at Bonneau, which is the World Christian Communities International Retreat Centre in France. I was spent a month there last year as a volunteer, where I was immersed in the prayerful life of the Benedictine community. Over the past 10 years, I've worked for Melbourne Archdiocese Catholic Schools, and I've led the Meditation in Schools project, which involved working with many schools across the Archdiocese, helping leaders and staff establish and embed Christian meditation practices into their school life. The most common difficulties I've noticed staff encounter are confusion on what meditation is and a lack of confidence and understanding in how to use it. Is it a well-being tool or is it a prayer? This is a common conundrum faced by many school leaders and teachers. I would like to address these themes in today's presentation in an effort to break down some barriers that prevent people from meditating or introducing meditation into their classrooms and schools. Although I must stress from the onset, in the limited time we have, this webinar can best be described as an introduction and an invitation to meditate, rather than a complete instruction guide. So let's get to it. I'd like to explore the what, the how, and the why of meditation. So what I'm hoping for today is that through this taste of meditation, we can increase our understanding on what it is, how you do it, and why it is so important. Now, this is a tuning in slide. I've got a few of them across the presentation. And what I'm suggesting we do is that I invite you to just take a little moment to tune in. So it's just a simple way to help us connect with ourselves at a deeper level. So when you see this slide, this will be the prompt to just have a little time to tune in. So if you feel comfortable to do this, I invite you to do it with me. So what I'll ask you to do now is I just invite you to notice how you're sitting in the chair. Notice your posture. And now gently straighten your back and ensure that your feet are on the floor. And if you feel comfortable, gently close your eyes. And just for a couple of moments, bring your attention to your body. How do you feel as you sit in the chair? What are you noticing? Okay, we'll come back to the slide and we'll get on to the what of meditation. So I'm going to ask Mark now just to facilitate the chat bar, because I'd like to know what you think. What comes to your mind when you hear the word meditation, or what has been your experience of meditation? So just quickly, just pop in the chat a word or a phrase or a program. What comes to mind when you hear the word meditation? And Mark will just read out to me what's coming back. What is meditation? And
We've
Mark
got
will
stillness
unmute.
and breathing,
Sorry, I didn't hear the first one, Mark.
stillness and breathing, being present in the moment, silencing the mind, a safe space, being present, stillness and silence, connecting to mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah, well, that's great. And meditation is all of those things. So we'll just work, we'll look into perhaps how can we get there. It's probably easier said than done. So I feel like I maybe have some meditators in the audience having those answers coming back to me. So meditation, and as remembering that this is just a taster, so I'm just going to give you some broad answers as we go along. Meditation is a spiritual practice that has been a part of all wisdom traditions and world religions. And I think that's really important because it's obviously over millennia, humanity has found that this practice is important and has included it in all wisdom traditions and world religions. It's a discipline that leads to the interior self, the true self, wholeness, heart, silence. It's a shifting of consciousness. We actually use different parts of our brain when we meditate. And this shift can be seen as a journey from our mind to our heart because we're
because we're
practicing
practicing
because we're
because we're
practicing.
practicing.
Oh, I'm
Oh,
starting
I'm
to
starting
echo.
to echo.
Because we're practicing, because our practicing takes us deeper than our thoughts, our planning, analyzing self. Now, this next slide is a picture of our brains. Now, because we have the MRI, we can now see our brains and we can see scans of our brains and what our brains are doing, what parts of our brains light up when we're doing different things. So this is just a simplified images of what's happening in our brain when someone is meditating and using a mantra. And we use a mantra in Christian meditation. So here on number 1, where it says mind wandering, the orange and the green in the cut through signify the default mode. The default mode of thinking is where we tend to go. It's what we do without concentrating. Has anybody, and you can just put a Y or a no in the chat if you want to, has anybody got in the car and then arrived home and when you drove in the driveway, you've thought to yourself, I don't really remember driving home. Has anybody ever had that experience before?
Yeah, quite a number of people there.
They've said yes.
Yes, yes,
And
smiley faces regularly.
yes, that means you were in default mode when you were driving home. And let's just hope default knows the difference between a green and a red light. Another example of default mode would be when you're going to get something and then you're wandering through the house and then you can't remember what you're going to get. So you were in a focused state of mind and then your body wanders off into default mode and then you're wandering around and you can't for the life of you remember what you're looking for. That's another very common example of default mode. So mind wandering in default mode is a very common experience. It's also when we start worrying, when we ruminate, when we feel anxious, we're in default mode. So that's where we are, and the green and the orange and the green um, simplify default mode. Then when we start to meditate, we're trying to move out, we're trying to shift the consciousness out of default mode, and we're trying to get into a focused, we're trying to bring our attention away from default mode. And when we, on number 2, distraction awareness, the green in the middle there is That's the part of the brain that lights up, that tells us we've moved away from our mantra, we've moved away from our attention, and we're moving back into default mode. Then when we get round to number 3, we have the green and the blue parts of the brain working together. That's where we have these parts of the brain are keeping us on track. We're keeping us on the attention, on the mantra, on our attention, on our focus, but it's also it's noticing if we're moving back, and it's taking us back. So we have this move in this shifting. So these parts of the brain are lighting up when we are focused, but then we're noticing that we are moving back, and we're moving back to the focus. And then the fourth one, the sustaining focus, is the blue part lighting up, is when we are really getting into the zone, we're focused, and we're getting into the zone. And when we get into the zone and can focus and we can practice and meditate, this isn't shown on this image, but the parts of our brain that the fear center, which is the amygdala, the amygdala calms down. And when the amygdala calms down, that lowers the messages to the sympathetic nervous system to calm down as well. So these are the areas of the brain that are working when we are meditating. So there is a definite shift of consciousness, which we can see on an MRI scan. So what is mindfulness? You started to let me know with some of your answers on what is meditation. Mindfulness is an ability to focus and notice. It's about paying attention, about being in the present moment, approaching events with curiosity rather than judgment, and about promoting an attitude of loving kindness. Now, over the last quarter century or so, there's been the discipline of mindfulness has gained mainstream popularity as a secular meditation practice. It has its roots in the Buddhist tradition, and it's a form of meditation seen primarily as self-care. It's a discipline that harnesses the ability to focus by moving the attention from the thoughts to the senses. And it helps increase the ability to notice. It promotes the attitude of compassion and loving kindness to ourselves, and this overflows to others. Mindfulness meditation helps you to see things as they really are, not as the way you wish they were. It helps you to be in the present moment. It has developed a strong evidence base in scientific and medical literature that has skyrocketed in the past 25 years. And this is due to 2 significant scientific breakthroughs. The first one is the advancements in the MRI brain imaging, which can record and monitor brain activity. And that's just a little bit, I showed you a little bit just from that previous slide. And the second one is from the Nobel Prize winning discovery of how chromosomes are protected by telomeres and the enzyme telomerase. And this was discovered by Elizabeth Blackburn and her team in 2009. And this has been a huge breakthrough. And this is really the reason why we all know about mindfulness, and how our schools have many, many programs now that are mindfulness based. Now, Elizabeth Blackburn is basically, her research came out of American universities, but she was born in Hobart, Tasmania, and she did her undergrad biochemistry degree at Melbourne University. So we have got a claim to her fame. And what she discovered were the telomeres. Now, the telomeres are these protective caps on the ends of your chromosomes, and they shorten each time a cell divides. Now, a good way to envisage what a telomere is to liken them to the plastic caps that you find on the end of your shoelaces. That, you know, the little plastic caps that stop your shoelaces from fraying. That's what a telomere is like on the end of your chromosomes. Now, when telomeres get too short, the cell stops functioning properly and eventually dies. And this is aging at a molecular level. Now, chronic psychological stress accelerates telomere shortening. And this is what Elizabeth Blackburn and her team discovered. Through a pioneering study, she did lots of studies, but a pioneering study that she conducted with another woman called Elisa Epel in 2004, she studied mothers that had chronically ill children who experienced sustained psychological stress, and they measured their telomeres and the telomerase, which is the enzyme that maintains the telomeres. And the chronically stressed mothers had an equivalent of 9 to 17 years of additional years of aging compared to the control group. So what they were able to see was that if you were sustaining psychological stress, your telomeres were shorter. So then they were able to think, well, if we had measures to protect your psychological stress, would you have longer telomeres? Because longer telomeres equals longer life. So then there was this outpouring of research on people who meditate. And they've found that experienced long-term meditators have longer telomeres. They have longer life at a cellular level. So that we now have a growing body of research that shows that meditation practices are associated with longer telomeres and higher telomerase activity. So the telomerase is the enzyme that keeps that nurtures and nourishes the telomeres, keeps them well. And so these are the two biological markers that slow down cellular aging. So this is showing that meditation appears to act as a buffer against the effect of chronic stress, the effect that chronic stress has on the body at a cellular level. So your cellular age is different to your biological age. Now, just on a very, very anecdotal level, when I was at Bonvo last year, there was a group of us. We were all long-term experienced meditators. We were just having a little chat after our volunteer shift, and we all start trying to guess how old we all were. Everybody guessed each other at 10 to 15 years younger than what we were. And I immediately thought of this research coming in, that we were all looking 10 to 15 years younger than what we were. So maybe it shouldn't be, maybe it's Maybelline, maybe it should be, maybe it's meditating. Something for you to think about. So here are some broad benefits of meditating. It increases your cognitive function through the attention. It boosts your physical health. It improves your mental health. It reduces anxiety, depression, and stress, and that's because it's lowering the activity around the fear center, which then lowers the activity, setting off your sympathetic nervous system. We have two nervous systems: sympathetic, which is for the fight and flight, and we have parasympathetic, rest and digest. So it's balancing to try and get your nerves more on the rest and digest. And with all the new evidence coming through of your digestion and how much your digestion has to do with your mental health. They now have found that serotonin, which is a huge hormone that affects your well-being, 90% of your serotonin is found in your digestive system. So we're really trying to get more of the parasympathetic nervous system in balance rather than the sympathetic nervous system. Meditation is helping you, and this is where it's all linked in. Reducing anxiety and depression and stress, enhances emotional intelligence. So it's really looking now, they're very much physiological, they're very much the physical effects, physical and emotional. And, we bring that together in a whole person approach. So many people refer to meditation as a journey or a pilgrimage. And this can have many meanings. It can mean that once you start practicing meditation, you begin a journey into experiencing life differently. Or it can mean meditation takes you from one place to another. And I like this image that meditation is being on a journey that starts in the mind and leads to the heart. We live in our minds and our thoughts, and that's half the problem, that we're stuck in our minds and our thoughts. And meditation takes us away from that cognitive space and moves us into the heart space. And as I said to you and showed you from that slide, there's all this movement going on within your brain. But, from a poetic point of view, I like to see it from the mind. The journey is from your mind space, cognitive mind space, to your heart space. And if you actually measure that mind space to your heart space, on most people, it's the length of a ruler, 30 centimeters, 12 inches for the oldies who are listening in the audience. But that time, that journey, for most of us, takes a lifetime to move out of our heads into our hearts. So, time for our next tuning in. So I want you to be aware of yourself sitting in the chair again. Have your back straight. You always need your back straight when you're meditating, and it's really beneficial to be able to feel your feet grounded on the floor. These are two important parts of your posture to help you with your meditating. I ask you to gently close your eyes and bring your attention to your hands. Place one hand in the other. Feel the weight of your hand in your other hand. Carry the load. Now use a finger from one of your hands to trace the outline of your other hand. Begin at the base of your thumb. As you rise to the tip of your thumb, think of something good that has happened today or recently. Something that you were grateful for. Now, as you trace your finger down your thumb, allow your thoughts to visit a recent challenge or someone who represents challenge for you. Now follow your finger up the incline of your next finger, recalling another moment of gratitude. Continue this exercise, moving your finger up and down your fingers. Now place one hand in the other as you did at the start. And gently carry your hand to your heart. Sit with your hand on your heart for a moment. Gently breathing. In and out. Now, slowly open your eyes. So, what makes the practice of meditation different? As I described to you at the start, I started doing relaxation meditation, then I moved to mindfulness meditation, then I moved to Christian meditation. So there are a lot more different types of meditation as well. So what makes the meditations different? More often than not, it is the focus and the purpose of the practice is where the differences lie. Mindfulness meditating practices that are evidence-based and promoted as well-being tools are secular practices aimed to improve health and well-being. The focus is on the self. Benefits of the practice include compassion towards others, but the focus is on noticing what is going on within yourself and monitoring and regulating your responses and behaviours for better health outcomes. They are known as an open monitoring form of meditation. Whereas meditating in the Christian tradition is a focused attention model, as the practice is mantra-based. And the focus comes off yourself and you open yourself up for an encounter with God. So the focus comes off yourself, whereas in the mindfulness, the secular mindfulness practice, the focus is on yourself. There are lots of other reasons why our meditation is Christian as well. We like to do it in groups and whatever, but the key reasons really is the purpose and the focus. And the focus is a secular mindfulness practice is the focus is on me, and a Christian based meditation, the focus is on Christ or God. And as you meditate in the Christian tradition and the focus comes off yourself, you are opening yourself to a deeper awareness of the divine indwelling spirit. I've created this model to help explain this concept to young children. So when you look at the circle is us. We are a person made of physical, social, emotional, spiritual self. And then we have the heart in the middle. And then we talk about meditating from our bodily self, and from the mind, going from the cognitive mind self to the heart self, But when we meditate in the Christian tradition, when we move into the heart self, there are two hearts in that heart space. There's our heart space, and then there's the heart of God, the divine indwelling spirit. Also, when you look at this model, there's a very dark, bold circumference. We tend to live around that circumference because we're always doing things, and we tend to live around that circumference. And meditating helps us move towards the heart space where we can just be. We're human beings. So we're moving from doing to being. The practice of the Christian tradition is God Christ-centered, where the mindfulness practice is person-centered. Both practices are learning to be in the present moment, moving out of our thoughts into our senses, being, not doing. In the Christian tradition, we believe in the possibility of encountering God in that sacred stillness. So our meditation becomes a form of imageless, wordless prayer. If we enter meditation as prayer, we practice with a faithfulness and surrender that can lead us to a deep place within us where our focus and attention is not on ourselves. We let go of our thoughts, words, and feelings and rest in this deep silence. A silence of love and communion. It's a movement from the mind to the heart. In the Catechism, the definition of prayer is raising of one's mind and heart to God, or the requesting of good things from God. When we look at this definition, we can see three distinct aspects of prayer. Prayer of the mind, prayer of the heart, and prayer of petition. When we look at meditation as prayer, we are describing the second aspect of this definition, prayer of the heart. It is an imageless, wordless prayer where we rest in the stillness of the mind and body and the silence and simplicity of sitting and paying attention. And this prayer has always been a part of our tradition, but for a long time it has not been given a lot of attention. Therefore, many may think it does not belong in our tradition. It has been a part of the Christian tradition since ancient times, with the desert mothers and fathers practicing it, and then in the late 4th century, John Cassian, an ascetic monk and theologian who spent time in Egypt with the desert communities, reflected on the teachings of the desert communities in his writings, and he became a major influence on Western monasticism. St. Benedict was heavily influenced by John Cassian's writings and introduced meditation into his rule and way of living. Many saints and mystics throughout the Catholic Christian tradition have practiced contemplative prayer. And John Main, a Benedictine monk, founded the World Community for Christian Meditation in the 70s. After his death in 1982, Father Lawrence Freeman expanded and formalised the global spiritual community, which now spans across 100 countries with its international retreat centre in France. Viewing meditation as prayer, we see the journey of learning to meditate as a journey of faith. And this perspective leads us to Scripture. Why did I choose this scriptural quote to explore the meditation practice. When Jesus names the greatest commandment, he draws directly from the Shema, the foundational Jewish prayer affirming God's oneness and love. As we return again and again to meditation and the contemplative life, we open ourselves up to oneness and love. Julian of Norwich uses the term oneing to describe the deep union between God and the human soul. As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Abide in my love. As the famous 14th century mystic Meister Eckhart said, nothing describes God as well as silence. But for us to become silent, to quieten our brain, to reduce the activity of the default network, to strengthen our ability to emotionally regulate and to regulate our attention more efficiently, to calm the fear center, adjust our bodies to receive, to listen deeply. That requires commitment, discipline, fidelity, time, courage, conviction, patience, and humility. Or, in other words, love. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. Meditation creates the environment for us to reach our potential, to be our true whole selves, and to live in right relationship with God, ourself, and by doing so, our neighbour, and all of creation. Our daily practice helps us to be in the world, not merely go through the to-do list. Saint Irenaeus said, "The beginning is faith, the end is love, and the union of the two is God." Saint Benedict said, "You must listen with the ear of your heart." And Saint Augustine said, "Our whole business, therefore, in this life is to restore to health the eye of the heart, whereby God may be seen." These glimpses of ancient wisdom come from our Christian tradition, pearls from the contemplative life. And more recently, from Noel Keating's doctoral research focusing on children meditating in the Christian tradition in Ireland, these beautiful pearls. We're now going to create the scene for us to conclude our session in our own meditation experience. So if you got the memo about bringing along some artifacts, now would be the time to set them up, just to create a little bit of a sacred space around you. If you have a Bible or something from nature, a cross, some rosary beads, a candle, something special to you, pop that around you to make you feel like you're in a nice, safe, sacred space. Light the candle if you can, and we'll enter into our final meditation. So we'll have our last tuning in. It's always important to tune in before we move into a meditation. You can't expect your brain to be going from work mode on busy and that chaos, and then to be able to just switch into a deeper mode. So this is where mindfulness is really a great tool. To be able to use mindfulness to prepare yourself for prayer is a wonderful gift. So if you can take a moment to notice bring some attention and notice your breathing. You don't have to slow it down or take deep breaths. Just notice the air going in and out of your body. And with your back straight and feet firmly grounded on the floor, gently close your eyes as we begin to focus on a sacred word that will become our mantra for the meditation. The World Community for Christian Meditation recommends Maranatha. It means come, Lord. It's Aramaic, the language Jesus spoke. But you don't have to use this word if you have another word that is special to you. Many people like Yahweh, and others have their own sacred word. It's often helpful to use a word from another language, as the word itself can become a distraction if you use a word from your own language. I will prompt you with the word Maranatha, but if you have another word, you say your mantra in your mind. It's also good to align the mantra with your breath. Ma-ra on the inhalation, na-ra on the exhalation. The mantra helps to quieten our mind. It brings our focus away from the default mode, and we focus on the mantra. We will get distracted, and that's okay. We can never stop the thoughts. Many people feel that meditation is about stopping the thoughts. That will never happen. Your brain, one of the major functions of the brain is to think. So you will never stop thinking. But a mantra will focus you on a focused attention with a mantra. And if you can align it with the breath, you will align your whole body's focus in an inhalation and an out. You can even link it in with your heartbeat. Once you start listening very deeply to your body, you will hear your heartbeat, and you can link your breath and the mantra and in with your heartbeat as well. So it's a matter of sitting quietly, listening, and moving into very focused attention. We say the mantra simply, we say it quietly, lovingly, faithfully. I'm going to play a little bit of music just to help us get into this zone of saying the mantra. And when the music finishes, there'll be 3 gongs that will represent the beginning of the silent time. And then when you hear the gongs again, that will represent the end of the silent time. So if you feel comfortable now, start with your mantra, Ma, Ra, Na, Tha, Ma, Ra, Na, Tha. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength.
So thank you, Lisa. We've reached 4:30, which is the end of our time today, for that wonderful journey from the mind to the heart. I'm reminded that Theodore Ratisbon had a great affection for that passage from the Jewish scriptures that we share through Jesus' words in our Gospels to love God wholeheartedly. I feel like we've really only scratched the surface tonight, but I felt a beautiful sense of calm and of peace, of being present and open to an encounter with God. Theodore Ratisbon also said that to pray is to love. It doesn't matter how you pray as long as you love. So thank you, Lisa, for your time and for your expertise in this space.